Okay, this was my awesome lucid dream I had this morning. Actually, a couple weeks ago, the aliens took me back to New York City. Well, that time around, it was a long, drawn-out scenario, sort of similar to the other one, except when I was sitting there in the car, I was zoning in, zooming in on a lot more buildings. I'm like, wow, okay, all of these buildings are different, you know, because that last time around, I was just focusing on the school that was just right there, kind of off to the side of all these streets and stuff. And then there was one scene, and then as I started looking around, there was just, you know, a lot more different buildings, and I was like, wow, a lot more different buildings and stuff that I was looking at. Yeah, and then there was one scene where I went into a restaurant, and it was kind of funny, but there was like a son and a mom at like a two-chair table or whatever, and they were like in the corner, and like the sink was just like right there to the right of them, and I was like going over there, washing my hands and stuff before I ate or whatever. And so that was kind of funny that the sink was just like right there, because I always wash my hands real good just to make sure I don't have, you know, cat food on there or whatever. Yeah, so, but anyway, yeah, so they took me back to New York City, and that was like a couple weeks ago, and it was a lot longer than that, though. It was pretty long. That was an OBE-VR lucid dream. But the one I had this morning was, oh my god, it was fun, man. So this morning was actually, did I? I'm trying to think. Okay, I'm trying to think if I ate anything or smelled anything in this scenario. Well, it'll come back to me if I did. So yeah, so this morning, they took me to England, and it was like a OBE-VR lucid dream, because it was pretty cool, pretty real feeling, but more of a lucid dream than like 3D feeling. But it was fun. And so basically, it like started out when, okay, so like this dark-headed guy, I don't know, he looked about 50 or whatever. He was gonna take us around to go see the crop circles. He was like the host, and so it started off. So like we were driving along, and then we stopped off into a bathroom area, I guess a gas station or whatever, and I went into the bathroom. And I remember, you know, I sat on the pot and everything, and I remember thinking, well, I can't stay too long in here because they may leave without me, you know. And there was like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 other people that went on the tour with us that were waiting around in the car or whatever. Yeah, it didn't seem like we were in a van this time. It seemed like a car. But, yeah, so I sat on the pot, and then I had like a duffel bag with me with my shoes and stuff in them, and I remember thinking, okay, I have to hurry up and get my shoes on and everything, and go out of the bathroom, you know, before they leave without me. But this is kind of weird. Eventually, the host, and the driver or whatever, he was a host and a driver. He came into the bathroom and he was like helping me put on my shoes. I guess he wanted me to hurry up. So he like, I got my shoes out, and they were like real big and manly, because I don't know why, I used to just buy these men's shoes, you know, because they were cheaper or whatever. But I don't buy them anymore because they're just way too big, way too wide. So I always try to buy women's shoes now. But yeah, but when I was younger, I used to buy men's shoes, and they would be like really wide and really big, you know. And so these shoes were like man's shoes, and they were like all white, and they were like leather, and there was like a bunch of dust, like black dust mainly I noticed at the front of the shoe, you know, in the tops of the shoes, a bunch of dust. And he got down there and started like wiping off the dust, and I went down there with my hand and started wiping off the other shoe, you know, because he was wiping off the dust and stuff. So anyway, it kind of started out like that, then, well, at that point, I don't know, I can't remember if we were in England at that point or not. So it's kind of like we drove to England instead of flew to England. Okay, so then, like I said, at that point we were on our way to England, and so the next part or whatever, we actually drove, to the host. What do you call it? I mean, the tour guide, the guy that I just talked about. He was the tour guide or host. I guess you call him a host, but he was the tour guide, and he had short black hair. And I know the aliens was trying to copy off somebody that I've seen before, for sure. Oh, well, yeah, maybe sort of that guy that was actually, when I went to England, that guy that was actually, kind of was hanging out with us, maybe him, but anyway, they were trying to copy off somebody, I've seen before. Yeah, so he was the tour guide. Okay, so eventually, so we ended up, at this weird apartment complex, because that's where we were staying, all of us, like 5 people, and then the tour guide. We were going to stay at this host, this female. The female was a host, and she had like a son and a couple other daughters in the house, and like even, I don't know, there was like 7 people living in this house, like family members, aunts, cousins, or uncles and cousins and stuff. And so she was the host, so it was basically kind of like a bed and breakfast, except it was an actual pretty big apartment complex, and hers was an apartment. So I'm trying to think, was it on the second? It was on the, let's see. It seemed like we were on the second floor, for sure. So anyway, but the funny thing is, as we pulled up in the parking lot, or, in the big old parking lot, driveway, whatever you call it, over to the left was all the buildings. And and we were already in England at that point. And all of the, I mean, not all of them, but a lot of the, the apartments, especially up on the second floor, they had like big Christmas lights, dangling out the window. Like these Christmas lights were like as big as like a grapefruit, they were big. And, well, I don't know, I just thought, I just kind of, when I looked at them, I was thinking that they were just for decoration, because I knew it wasn't like Christmas or anything. So that's just what a lot of them did. They put those lights out of the, out the window. Yeah, and so that was kind of funny. But they looked like Christmas lights, but they weren't. They were just for decoration. And a lot of the the apartments, they did have those, dangling out the windows. So that was kind of funny. And then when we got into the bed and breakfast, basically, which was basically an apartment, I started looking around at like the aunt and the mom, which was the hostess or whatever. And at some point, I remember looking out the window, and I looked at the highways, the highways out the window, and like the woods and stuff. And I was like, wow, well, this just looks like, America. You can't really tell you're in England, it just looks like America, It just looks like any roads, any streets, whatever. But anyways, I was looking at everything, like that. And I was just like, wow, this is just like, it looks no different than America or whatever. So that was kind of funny. And, okay, I'm trying to think, what was the next? Okay, well, anyway. Oh, yeah, okay, so, the other, there was another part of the scenario where, there was like a restaurant down at the bottom level somewhere, bottom level of the apartment complex. And I went into the restaurant, and I started walking through the restaurant, and but for whatever reason, I was just observing or whatever. And then I went back up, into the bed and breakfast, which was the apartment. But at one point in the apartment, and that one woman, she was in there again. That one woman that in real life went on the crop circle tour with us, she was there. And the other people, I can't remember who they were exactly. But yeah, so she was there. And, so this was kind of funny. So the hostess, and I remember, dang it, I had a lot of, I'm trying to remember the conversations I had with like the aunt and stuff. Shit, I'm trying to think. Because I was having some conversation. Oh, shit. I'm trying to remember. And I don't know if I can remember now the conversations we had. But I started talking to her a lot, like the aunt. The sister of the hostess or whatever. Because she was sitting there in a chair. It was just like one the room we were in was just like one big room. At that point, it was just like one big living room. And so, but anyway, I sat in a chair and we started talking and stuff. And then this was kind of funny. And then the son of the hostess like came in, and he didn't look very old. I don't know, maybe 13 or 14 or whatever. And I had this like sweat zip up sweat shirt on, but it was zip up, you know, in the middle. But all I had was like a sport bra on. And I don't know if he was, I don't know if he was being a pervert or what, but he was like, well, why do you have like behind the sweatshirt? And so I kind of zipped it down, and I told him I didn't want to take the whole thing off because, you know, it's just I just had not a tank top, sport bra on. You know, I didn't really have much on under there, just a sport bra. And but for whatever reason, he wanted me to like open it up. And so that was kind of funny. And I was like, well, I don't really have much on under here. You know, all I have is a sport bra. But I did zip it down a little bit, and then I zipped it back up. Oh, and then this was kind of funny. Another part of the scenario, when we were about to leave out to go to to go see the crop circles, which we never did, you know, in the scenario, we never did make it to go see the crop circles because I got lost. But anyway, so there was one part, like of the scenario when we were about to, you know, get into the car and go look at crop circles in the parking lot. We were about to all meet, you know, at the car or whatever to head out. And the tour guide was standing there, and like I say, he looked about 50, and he had short, dark hair. And he was like, well, it's level, he said the temperature was level 4, which meant that it was pretty damn cold outside. And sometimes, you know, in England, even in the summertime, it could get kind of cold, especially at nighttime. But yeah, and so that was kind of funny because I remember thinking, okay, good, because I was glad that it was going to be colder than hotter. But he said it was like level 4, and I knew that meant it was colder than average, you know, that day. And the alien just copied all that from my brain, you know, because when I went to England, sometimes it would be cold, sometimes it would be hotter during the day. And that level stuff, I think the aliens got from the food allergy test that I received or whatever, you know, because it has like 5 levels on there or whatever of antibodies. So the alien just copied that. So that was kind of funny. But okay, so at one point, what the hell was I looking for though? I'm trying to remember. Okay, I can't remember what the hell. I went out of the apartment complex, and I started walking, you know, all the way down past many buildings and many apartments and many buildings, all the way down the street, or the parking lot, basically. But I guess you could call it a street too. So I just kept walking. But now I'm trying to remember. I can't remember what the hell I was looking for or why I left the apartment. I'm trying to remember, man, and I can't remember. I can't remember why I left the apartment, but there was a reason, and I can't remember offhand now. I don't know if I was... Oh, my God! There's this other part of the scene that just came... Oh, my God. I hate these kind of lucid dreams because sometimes you may forget, you know, 35% by the time you tell about it. But sometimes I don't forget any. But, any details. Oh, my God, there's this other part of the scenario. But anyway, okay, so basically I left because I was looking for somebody or something, and I just kept walking. And then I looked up again and I saw more like lights, like Christmas light looking things, decorations dangling out of the windows of some people's apartments. And then, okay, so I walked a long ways, and then as I tried to walk back to go find my, you know, bed and breakfast, which was the apartment, I never could find it. And I just kept getting lost, and I could not find the apartment complex. I mean, the apartment that we stayed in. And so that was real frustrating because, you know, we were about to head out and go look at crop circles. But I never could find the freaking complex, that I stayed in, the apartment that I stayed in. And so I just kept, looking at all the buildings, and I'm like, is this one it? No, that one can't be it, because that other, this one, I remember there was a black car. It was a black small car that we rode in, and that's what I was looking for, a black car in front of the complex. And the black car, it looked like maybe what do you call it? It wasn't a real new model. I would say it was probably at least a 10 or 15-year-old car. It was just, let's see, I'm trying to think. The make and model of it was just like a Chevrolet Impala or something, but it was maybe a little smaller. But it was older, like maybe 10 years old, and it was black. And I kept going past all the buildings, the complexes, and I kept looking for that black car. And anyway, so I got lost, and I never could find the complex and the bed and breakfast, that we stayed in, which was just a regular apartment, but it was kind of like a bed and breakfast. And so anyway, this other part came into the scene, and there was four very unique looking black people, black people and African people in this other scene. Okay, this other scene, and I know I'm forgetting some, like I said, I already forgot some of the conversations and stuff we had, because we were totally talking about something, and I totally freaking forgot what I was talking to about that aunt. I mean, it wasn't anything too important. I think, as far as I remember, we were just talking about, like America and England or something like that. But anyway, so I got lost, and I never could find the apartment. So anyway, but for whatever reason, I went up into a random building, apartment building, and I went up, it seemed like I went up to at least the third level, and I went into an office. For whatever reason, I went into an office, and all these people were just kind of like secretaries, but there was like four of them, four women, and they all were just like real exotic looking. There was like three black American women. The other black person was straight up Africa. She was straight up African. The other black person, she was totally black, really black. The other three people were, English American, basically. And I was trying to ask them, where's the bed and breakfast and stuff that I stayed in? But I mean, they literally couldn't help me, because I had nothing to go by. I didn't have their phone number, because I think that, as far as I remember, we had long drawn out conversations, and she was like, can you text them? And I was like, I don't even know their phone number. I don't have a phone. And but that was cool, because they were very, very, exotic looking, like all of those black women. And so yeah, that part was kind of cool. And then they had like fax machines sitting around, and like a typewriter, because like I say, they were kind of like office people, secretaries or office administrators or whatever. And so that was like really cool. But anyway, it was a really fun scenario. I just remember, I just wish I remembered the conversation and stuff we had, but the exact conversations we had, like with the aunt or whatever. But it was fun. But these other two scenarios I had was kind of fun too. This was like a few days ago, and I guess I'll talk about that first one first, and then the one I had the next day second. But and like I say, there was a reason why I went walking for a long time, because I was trying to find somebody or something, and now I can't remember what the hell it was. And I know there was a lot more that happened in the thoughts or whatever, or food I was trying to find or whatever. A lot more thoughts and stuff that I was having when I walked around that restaurant, because I know I was thinking thoughts like, what am I going to eat? Because I knew I couldn't eat like corn, rice, or wheat, and a bunch of other shit. But I know it was, there was some other parts too that I'm forgetting, when I walked through the restaurant and stuff. But, so this other scenario, okay, so that was in England. And then, like I say, they took me to New York City about a week or week and a half ago. Took me back to New York City. And as I was looking at all the buildings, I was just like, wow, this is a lot more buildings that I'm looking at now compared to that other time I was in New York City, where I was just looking at the school, that big old school. Yeah, like when they took me back to New York City, I already knew that I had, been there before, so to speak. The aliens do that a lot. And sometimes when I wake up, I'll be like, wow, I've never really had that dream before. And, and then sometimes I had it before or whatever, or similar one. But, okay, so this other scenario, okay, wait, let me think. Oh, yeah, okay. This other scenario, I was in this, like, church with, okay, I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah, I was in this church. Oh, actually, I was going to a church service. I was in this weird church with several co-workers and, like, the security guard. And for whatever reason, so I'll tell about this part first. So I was going to this service. I was in this church, and this is kind of weird, but this big old, like, bar. I don't know. It wasn't a bar. It was more like wood. This big wood dilly bobber. Kind of like an apparatus that held you in, like strapped you in, when you're about to get on a roller coaster. The bar comes down or whatever and holds you in. Well, this is so funny. And like I say, this bar, or it was like more like wood though, really thick wood. It came down over us to keep us in the chair. But the whole thing, it was as long as the whole damn row, the whole damn, I mean, it was like, the row, I don't know how wide the row was, but there's many chairs. I mean, it was like, 30 chairs long, and I was in the middle. And so this whole thing that came down over us, that was like to hold us in the chair, was that length, 30 chairs long or whatever. So that part was kind of funny. And then the other part of the scenario, in the back, there was my coworkers and the security guard. They were drinking beer and liquor and stuff. And I knew that I didn't want to drink that because I don't drink stuff like that. And so they were drinking and stuff, and this was kind of funny, but Hannah, my cat, was in the scenario. This isn't the first time the aliens put Hannah, my cat, in the scenario. But Hannah, at some point, I picked up Hannah, and she looked like she was dying. And you should have seen the look on her face. Her eyes were so oh, I'm in pain. Her eyes she looked so sad, and she was kind of crying. And the aliens are funny. They can make anything look like anything. And and I kept thinking she was gonna die. And so I started screaming at my coworkers like, who's the one that gave her the beer? Because she lapped up a bunch of beer, and she got drunk, and she got sick. And the female coworker yelled out a code word for the security guard. I forgot what she said, but I knew that it meant the security guard. And so I started yelling at him, like, why did you give Hannah beer? And I kept thinking Hannah was going to die, because she looked so sickly and bad. And, but yeah, her little eyes, kind of were pink looking. And she had this funny look on her face, and her little eyes, she looked so sad. Yeah, but anyway, she never did end up dying or anything in the scenario, but yeah, it was a funny scenario. But I remember just yelling really loud, yelling really hard at the security guard because he admitted that he's the one that gave her the beer. And I was just like, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that? But yeah, this scenario, it was kind of fun though. I don't know where the aliens got all that from, but yeah, so anyway, I was in a church. I hadn't had any thoughts of being in a church, I don't think, at the time. But it was kind of fun. And let's see, what else? But yeah, and that scenario probably lasted 2 to 3 hours in non-3D time, and the England scenario probably lasted 12 hours in non-3D time. That New York City one, that probably lasted, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours in non-3D time. But this other scenario I had was really weird too. it's like my daybed. It's like my daybed was in the scenario, except the daybed was in a bar. I was in like a bar kind of setting. And so I was sitting, you know, at the back of my daybed, and I was draping my hands over, or my arms over the daybed, and it's like I was sitting in a bar. It was so weird. And now in this scenario, I did actually pick up Coca-Cola, like a plastic, not a waxy, you know, one of those waxy cups, like a 32-ounce waxy cup, and it said Coca-Cola on it, red letters or whatever, red and white letters. But as far as I remember, even on this cup, it had Coca-Cola in black letters as well. And I was actually drinking the Coke, and I'm like, wow, this is so sweet. It tastes so good. And I'm like, and you know, when I was under the scenario, I'm like, I mean, in real life, you know, I can't really drink this, you know, because I would have reactions and stuff. And so in the scenario, I was drinking the Coca-Cola, and I could taste it and everything, and it tasted so good. And but I knew, you know, I knew in real life I wouldn't, you know, been able to drink it. So anyway, so I was drinking Coca-Cola, you know, instead of like liquor or whatever. And okay, but the other part of the scenario was funny. So I was just basically just sitting there, you know, minding my own business. I wasn't even walking around or anything. And then there was this gay guy that was sitting over on the other side of the daybed, which it was kind of like I was on a daybed. It was weird. And he was just sitting there, and he seemed to be not like very friendly or whatever. So I guess we were at a gay bar. But yeah, so it's like the alien didn't really tell me. So yeah, it's kind of like he was he was kind of standoffish and not very friendly. And eventually, so like I say, the alien didn't tell me what bar, you know, he didn't really name the bar. But anyway, so so at one point we started talking about, at one point he walked up and he went over to the other end of the daybed, like several feet past the daybed, and sat in another chair. And then I told him, I was like, remember that bar called The Edge? You know, like in Kansas City? And I told him I used to go there all the time. This is so weird. I don't remember thinking about The Edge lately, or downtown Kansas City lately, but maybe I did. And but anyway, the aliens took all these details from my brain, and I was like, don't you remember The Edge? And I was like, you know, it's a bar that me and my friend used to go to all the time. And he's like, well, it's like he knew The Edge very well. He told me he knew it very well, and he said it actually wasn't called The Edge. He said it was called the something Edge something. And it was something like oh shit, low battery. He said it was called like the Main Edge Incorporated or something like that. It was something like, he said it wasn't called The Edge, but it was called, the official name was the Main Edge Incorporated or something like that. And I was like, wow, okay, I didn't know that. I said, we just always called it The Edge. And I was trying to tell him that it's not there anymore, because the last time I was in Kansas City, this is all under the scenario, I told him the last time I was in Kansas City, I went looking for it, like on 5th and Central or whatever. It was either a 5th and Central, or I think it was 5th Street and Central or something like that. And it wasn't there anymore because, you know, in Kansas City, they had knocked down a bunch of buildings. And so, and I had these images of this big open parking lot, because it wasn't there anymore. It was just vacant parking lot. And so I had those visions when I was in the scenario. And like I say, even in real life, you know, I had went looking for it one time in real life, and it was not there, because they had knocked it down, that whole building. They started knocking down a bunch of old buildings back, you know, 10, 15 years ago or whatever. So yeah, that part was kind of weird. I mean, that scenario was kind of weird, but it was fun that I drank Coca-Cola. And then I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. But yeah, I don't think I had Bar or Edge or Kansas City on the brain lately, but maybe I did. But yeah, he was like, yeah, it wasn't called. Yeah, but as far as I remember, he was trying to argue with me and say that it was still there, that he thought. But I was trying to tell him, no, it's definitely not there, because I went looking for it and driving around, and it was not there. Because like I say, they did knock down the building in the scenario. You know, they knocked it down, and even in real life. So I had all those thoughts and stuff. And like I said, I even had the visions where I was looking at the complete empty parking lot where the edge used to be. And in real life, when I went driving around, I'm like, wow, where's the building? You know, it's not there. They completely knocked it down, even in real life, back around 2004, you know, when I went looking for it or whatever, when I happened to be in downtown Kansas City. But anyway, so that scenario was kind of weird. But the one I had this morning was fun. And the church one was pretty fun. And the New York City one was pretty fun. Well, thanks for listening. Oh, whoops, I forgot to mention yesterday when I went to Enlgand via OBE-VR lucid dream. Well, it's just a minor thing, but yeah, I forgot to mention that. Okay, so when I went down, actually it was like an incline, like it was a hill, like the whole bunch of apartment buildings were like over to my left. You know, as we drove up, it was a hill, progressively from the first building over to the left. You know, all the buildings kind of went up. So it was a hill that went, you know, all the way up to the end of the building, and then that's where, to the left, that's where we parked the black car. And that's where our, you know, bed and breakfast was, but it was actually an apartment building. It was an apartment. And it seemed to be a pretty good, large apartment, pretty good size. Yeah, and so then, like I say, I forgot why I went out of the, you know, apartment, the bed and breakfast, and I started walking down, you know, the sidewalk basically, and or the street. I can't remember if I was walking on the street or the sidewalk, but I kept walking, you know, because there was an incline. It went all the way, you know, like down a hill from the building that I was staying at to all the way to the first building of the apartment complex. And so anyway, it almost seemed like there was a little bridge actually. So as I started, and like I say, I can't remember why I went out of the building, but it seemed like I was trying to look for somebody, like or I was trying to go get somebody and bring them back or whatever to the, you know, to the bed and breakfast. I can't remember, damn it. Okay, so I started walking, and then it's almost like I came to the middle of and it almost seemed like a small little bridge right there, but I came to the middle of the whole, you know, complex. There wasn't any buildings on the right, they were all on the left, the whole complex, as we were driving up the hill, and at the very end was our complex and our apartment building, which was, you know, the bed and breakfast, which was the apartment. It was basically a bed and breakfast, but she lived in a regular freaking apartment. And so anyway, so I met up, this is kind of funny because the alien put this woman in there. The alien copied off of this, she was like kind of like a dykey gay woman that came into my house in real life the other day. Because, well, not the other day, this has been a few weeks ago, because she put in my part for the air conditioning. And so the alien was trying to like kind of copy her, because in the scenario, the woman kind of looked like her. So as I was walking, and like I said, I can't remember why I went out of the building. I was trying to go meet up with somebody or something and try to bring them back to the bed and breakfast or something, or I was going to tell somebody something, and I can't freaking remember. But there was a reason why I went out of the building. And I went walking down, you know, past all the buildings and stuff. But anyway, so I met up with, and it almost seemed like I came to a little bridge. And she was standing there, and I was going to ask her, like I say, but I was already lost. I mean, I already went out of the building and everything, because I was looking for somebody or something. But I was already lost at that point. And so I stopped and talked to her. And I was, you know, like, how do I get back to my, you know, my bed and breakfast, that apartment that I was staying at? And she started talking to me, and she was kind of short. Well, so was that other woman. She was short, but the alien was trying to kind of copy off her, because she kind of looked like her, but not exactly. And this woman in my scenario was probably a little younger, and she started talking to me, and she had an American, you know, she didn't have an English accent. She had an American accent, not an English accent. And I was like, okay, well, you know, I was thinking in my head, well, she's not going to be able to help me because I knew she probably wasn't from around there. And so basically that's what she told me. She started talking to me, you know, in a regular accent. And she said, well, I don't know this complex, you know, very well, because she hadn't been there very long. And so she couldn't help me at all, but I think I forgot to mention that in the scenario, but I was already lost at that point. Because like I say, I did, I mean, it went on for a long time. Like as I was walking past all the buildings, that went on for a long time. And as I was trying to find my building, where I stayed at, I was trying to find the black car or whatever. And, that whole scene went on for a pretty long time. But I can sit here and talk about it in a few minutes. But in the scenario, it seemed like it went on for at least 2 hours. Like once I went out of the building and I was trying to go find somebody, but I can't freaking remember why I went out of the building, but there was a reason and I can't remember. And then as, you know, I tried to find my way back, you know, trying to walk, you know, up the semi-steep hill that went all the way up to the end of the building where we stayed at. I kept getting lost and I couldn't find it. And anyway, that's when I went off into a random building, and it seemed like I went up on the 3rd or 4th level, but pretty high, like maybe 3rd or 4th level. And the whole complex, I would say, the apartment building, the whole complex, it didn't seem like it was any higher than about four levels. But it was just kind of, but anyway, it was just kind of funny. Like after we drove past the first few buildings over on the left, then it was like 7, I don't know, it seemed like we passed like 7 buildings. The first 3 buildings, I don't remember seeing the big old Christmas lights dangling out the window, but it was very tacky how they had the Christmas lights just dangling out the window, but they weren't Christmas lights, they were just decoration. That's how the English people like to decorate in the scenario. And I mean, they were just like, it was tacky, you know what I'm saying? And, but the bulbs, they were as big as a grapefruit or a little bigger, except they weren't shaped completely round. And so it was like, I started to see the apartments with the bulbs dangling out the window, like, you know, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th building, not like the first 2 or 3 buildings that we passed. You know, I remember all that because we looked at all the buildings, and the first few buildings didn't have those Christmas lights, you know, dangling out, but like I say, they weren't Christmas lights, they were just decorations, dangling out the window. And then as we came up to our building, it was like, you know, the 4th, 5th, 6th, it was, you know, a few buildings and our building or whatever that had the Christmas lights, decoration, you know, dangling out the window. But it was tacky, the way the aliens did it, it was tacky. But like I say, they weren't Christmas decorations, it was just how the English people like to decorate. And I even had all those thoughts. I'm like, wow, the English people decorate, you know, funny, you know. I had all those thoughts when I was in the scenario. And, you know, then when I looked out of the window, when I was in my bed and breakfast apartment, aka apartment, we were on the 2nd level, it seemed like. Actually, it almost seemed like we were maybe on the 3rd or 4th. But I don't know exactly, because as I was looking out the window, we were definitely up there a few levels. And like I said, I was looking out the window and I just saw 2 normal looking, you know, highways, freeways or whatever, and all the woods and shit. And I'm like, well, this kind of looks no different than America. You know what I'm saying? I was thinking all that in my head as I was looking at all that. But yeah, I had almost forgot about the part where, like I said, I went into the random building, one of the random apartment buildings, and I went up to at least the 2nd or 3rd level, and I went into this big office. There's a pretty big office, and there's 4 black women, very exotic looking, very pretty and very exotic looking. So that was kind of weird and cool. But yeah, the aliens, I don't know what their deal is, but they do like to put a lot of black people in my scenarios. And then you'll see black people, if they get attuned to their experiences, they'll be like, they put a lot of white people in my scenarios. So it's kind of funny. Well, and And like I say, I think the aliens do that with me anyway. Just because well, you know, they know that I'll know that that's them, that's the reptilians giving me this scenario. That's their marker or whatever, or one of their characteristics. They'll put like black people in my scenarios, but they don't do it like all the time or whatever. But they put Middle Eastern people, Mexican people in my scenarios too. But I mean, this was very, very specific, you know, for black people, very exotic looking, and you know what I'm saying, this was very, very on purpose. I'm trying to think of, did I watch anything lately with a bunch of black people? I maybe did, shit, I can't remember. But yeah, they do, but they haven't, it seemed like they haven't done it in a while until now or whatever, but they do like to put a lot of black people in my scenarios. And what was I? And just very obvious, specific things too. Like that one experience I had where I went to, I think it was South Carolina, where they took me to South Carolina, and I went into the courtroom, and the judge was a black woman. She got all in my face, and it was just so funny. And like I said, that was a few years ago, but that's what I forgot to mention was the well, you know, about the hill and stuff. The whole apartment complex was not flat. It was on a pretty steep hill. And then about the gay chick, but she was American. She was not English. And that's why she couldn't really help me out. Cause she's like, oh, I'm not from around here. And once I heard her once I heard her American accent, then I knew, I was like, okay, well, this woman's not going to be able to help me. Cause I could tell she's not from around here. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, but the funny thing is, okay, so in this scenario, I mean, I was in England and everything, but when I was in this scenario, you know, it didn't necessarily feel like England. It didn't really feel like America either, but it didn't really feel like England. The aliens were being lazy or whatever, because it's amazing what they can do. I mean, like when they took me to England many, many times before, I mean, it totally felt like England. Or when they took me to Romania, it felt like Romania. And I've never been to Romania in my life in physical 3D form. It's just amazing what they can do. But like I say, this particular scenario, the energy didn't really feel like England, but it didn't necessarily feel like America either. Thanks for listening. Hey, thanks for listening. Stacey, Tora.